We'll head back to the red zone shortly, but first it's time to introduce the guys and girls from the Pukekohe Hot Rod Club, a club with its history entwined with the birth of drag racing in New Zealand.
The Pukekohe Hot Rod Club was formed in 1965, had a membership of 6 people, and we participated in hot rod shows, hill climbs, and dirt track racing because there was no actual drag racing in those days.
The club's first initiative was to set up a permanent grass track circuit over the hill at Pukekohe. Early drag racing events were then held at the Pukekohe coal mine, but when development forced races out, the Manukau City Council came to the party. Road closures in Wiri were approved and a total of 6 drag racing events were staged.
The crowds that came were huge, something new for them to look at, and the resultant exposure on TV meant that we were approached by a Mr. Len Rankin who owned this farm here, and he offered us the use of the land. He was more into roading construction than running cattle, and we came and had a look. It was just all tea tree right down here. That's all you could see. So we used some of the revenue from running the drags at Wiri. That gave us a basis, and then we sold the benches to the public and raised $50,000 and did most of the work ourselves with the help of Len Rankin. Got the drag strip up and running in the mid-70s.
With the new strip came a big incentive to join the club, and membership jumped to the 150 mark, a number that has been consistent ever since.
Where we stand at the moment is our involvement in hot rodding and drag racing. It's on a high at the moment in both directions, so we're ticking along pretty good on that score. We've recently got best representation at most events we've entered, so I guess that's an indication of our enthusiasm, you could put. There's a lot of new cars under construction at the moment, which is another good sign. Hot rodding's really in a big way at the moment in New Zealand. It's probably the biggest it's ever been.
The thing that immediately strikes you about the Pukekohe Hot Rod Club is the variety of machinery and the members themselves. A 50-50 split of hot rods and street machines, together with a strong drag racing ties, makes for a lively culture within the club.
It's been a family-orientated thing for us. My kids have grown up with it. We've been everywhere in New Zealand, from Bluff to Cape Reinga. Generally, it's been a great sport for us as a family group. You play golf, you play that by yourself. You play rugby, it's a team thing, but it's not your family's not your team. That's what hot rodding is to us. It's a family thing.
You've got a good base of friendship with people from all around New Zealand, basically. So we've got a lot in common to talk about, and people come from all walks of life. They're not just mechanics and panel beaters like years ago. They're accountants and lawyers and all sorts.
Pukekohe has a hell of a wide cross-section, hence its numbers. One of the reasons for that is that because they don't place any restrictions on it. And I think that's probably not a bad thing. I mean, it has its place. There's guys in the club that don't have a car, or maybe they're building one and it's never seen the light of day, and there's other people that are driving them out every weekend. So huge variety and cross-section of individuals and motor vehicles, and that adds to the flavour of the whole thing, I guess.
And for some, it's just in the blood.
Something that you can never let go of. Once you've driven a good American car and worked on them, it just becomes a bug. You can sometimes work on a car for a year, and then you get sick of it and you push it in the back of the shed and it might sit there for another year. And then one day you'll wander out on a wet day and say, hey, undo a few nuts and bolts and you start again, and it's a fever. You're into it again and you just don't stop. The sport of hot rodding has just exploded. The big beach hops and swap meets up at Auckland and so on have meant that the general public now accept it as a national sport and hobby, and it's a big dollar thing for a lot of people now. But the real backbone truth of it is without spending money you can still have a lot of fun tinkering on an old car.
And spinning spanners isn't the only way to enjoy yourself, as the club was only too eager to point out. Pukekohe Hot Rod Club is the only club in New Zealand, actually the only club in the world, with their own drag strip. But with great fun comes great responsibility, despite the huge support from Pukekohe.
whole town got behind it. It was really good. You don't get it these days. And that was the reason why it was successful. To run an operation like this, the overheads, if you paid everybody, you couldn't do it. It would go under. So it's the voluntary labour that everyone's put in that's kept the place going.
Champion Dragway is still the only purpose-built drag strip in New Zealand, where it's got a full quarter mile of a standalone drag strip. All the other venues in the country either run on airports or part of the 400 metres onto circuit racing. Hey, we aim to improve it as much as we can. Obviously everything comes with funding, and like last year we had a very good year. We had no rainouts. We've been in New Zealand, once the weather comes in and you have like the Nationals like 2 years ago where it rained, where you lose quite a big vast amount of money promoting the event, it's gone. So hopefully with another good year behind us, we might see a few more improvements around here.
When we first built it, people criticised us. They said, you're too far out of town, no one will ever come there. But to get the specified departures and consents for noise and traffic and so on, we had to come this far anyway. And there was nowhere else where there was such a big piece of land that we had access to. You couldn't afford to just walk in and buy it. It was sort of a dream spurred by trips overseas to America and Australia and reading magazines on hot rodding overseas, and it became a dream, and then the dream eventually became a reality here.
So with the public interest at an all-time high, where to from here for New Zealand's rodding culture?
There's a growth sport and it's going to keep going. The commercial operators are getting on it more and more. Towns are embracing it, like New Plymouth with the Americana, Whitianga and Whangamata rather with the beach hop.
The interest in American cars is on a high. All you've got to do is look at the number of vehicles that are being imported, and some of the numbers you hear are quite staggering. And I guess also a lot of people are returning to the sport or getting involved in it at a slightly older age. So while that's a good thing, you know, financially they're less burdened and probably can afford to have a hobby vehicle, if you like. But it creates some problems as well, you know, in terms of attracting younger people who tend, rightly or wrongly, to look more at Japanese vehicles and that type of thing. So I think the sport's at a little bit of a crossroads, really, and probably from a promotional and marketing point of view, there's quite a lot of work to be done to attract people into it, and for them to see a viable reason why they'd want to get involved with a club or with the sport in general.
And a big thanks to Hugh and Rob for organising the troops.